Well, for me, the EUFGIS is mainly the outcome of a long-term process of within EUFORGEN group, which is a network on forest genetic resources. And after many years, the nice thing is that more than 30 countries have been able to talk the same language and share the same definitions on forest genetic resources. And the portal is just the outcome of putting all these harmonized definitions in a single database, and then with a lot of facilities to get the information. And we have a nice tool to describe what is effectively done in Europe for forest genetic resources conservation, and also a tool to identify the gaps in these strategies. And it can be used for harmonizing the national policies on this topic, and it can be used also to provide to the political decisions and managers to provide them information on how they can optimize their policy. At the national level, it also helps the national people in charge of national decisions to see what happens elsewhere and to adjust eventually their national policy. So it's really a good tool. Okay, the practical example is the pan-European process of the Ministerial Conference on the protection of forest in Europe, where forest genetic resources is a specific objective and specific item. And up to now, there was a very vague indicator of what was happening in Europe. And now we have a very sound information, qualitatively and quantitatively detailed information on to describe really what is achieved. So it can be species by species. For particular species, we can relate the efforts of conservation and relate that to the threats on the species, for example, related to the future climate change scenarios, or we can relate that also to the management. Is there really a consistency between the effort of conservation and the management systems which are used in the different populations? So we can make that species by species, but we can also identify gaps either for a given species. Is there any we have seen during this meeting that, for example, some areas in Europe which are supposed to be refugia during the last glacial age, which are suspected to have a very specific genetic diversity, are completely missing in our network of conservation units. So we can identify this kind of situations where new efforts could be put at pan-European level. And then at even national level, a country we can see that different countries have different strategies, and that may help the countries to evolve in their policy and in their strategy. So basically, we observe that we have two kinds of strategies. Some have a very species-driven policy on gene conservation in forestries, and that means that their networks is very specifically dedicated or oriented towards a limited number of species, and other countries have a different strategy, which is more geographical units driven strategy. So once a forest is dedicated to gene conservation, they force conservation for a series of different species in the same place. And these are two different strategies, and maybe some countries, seeing these differences, may evolve in their thinking about this. So I think it will be a tool to go towards more harmonization of the national policies in Europe.
And a tool also for gazing into the future, so you can use it as a crystal ball for looking at where forests are and forest genetic material is heading in the future, under environmental change perhaps.
Yeah, well, we must not promise more than what exists. So this is really a starting point, but a very solid starting point. And once again, why it is solid? It is because we all agree on the definitions, on the concepts of the information, the basic information which is in the database. This database is clearly not complete, but the information inside is sound. And then, so now we will improve the database and enter more data and use it. What also can be seen is what kind of synthesis or analysis we can make with this data. And this gives us a clue on what kind of crystal ball we will have in the future. Today, we know what kind of information we have, and we see that it's really rich information, and we can make many things with this. And permanent efforts must be put on the quality of the information. This is crucial. And already there is quite a quantity, and this will improve, and this is a new tool. And I must say, I think it is something unique for in situ conservation, and I don't think similar tools exist even in other plant or animal gene resource programs. So this is really a new and very efficient, I think, tool that was produced.